Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Rumberger. I'll be presenting for my group. My group is discussing the cons of the sharing economy. To begin, I would like to briefly just discuss what a sharing economy is. A sharing economy is a kind of business that is formed around a model where the assets are owned by your users who sign up on your platform to make money off of your platform, but the websites that are hosting get a slice of this pie. So they're kind of the intermediary, the middleman, if you will, and they take their slice without having to do much work. An example of this will be Uber or Lyft, where a user who would like to open up, I guess, their own kind of taxi service or be a driver for Uber can sign up for Uber using their own car with their own gas, and they can pick up people and drive them around, and they would get paid to do this. Uber, however, will take a slice of this pie. Airbnb is another example. What Airbnb is it's a service where if you have extra room in your house that you would like to rent out for a short time, or let's say you're going to be out of town for a bit and you just want to rent out your room to try and make money while you're away, you can do this on their service. Airbnb will once again take a slice of the revenue that you get. The sharing economy also consists of other services. So for example, there's freelancing platforms. Let's say I'm a person who works a long period of time at a day, but I have dogs at home and I can't take care of these dogs. So I need somebody to come in while I'm away at work and let them out. Now I can go on one of these freelancing platforms and look for a dog sitter or a dog walker and someone who could take them out while I'm gone away at work and work out a price to pay for them. And once again, the service that I've done this through, if I'm the person who's offering my services, I will get paid, but so will the sharing economy website or the proprietor. Very quickly, a lot of safety concerns start to rise because of how the sharing economy websites, through their business model, are able to dodge a lot of regulation. Airbnb, um, the equivalent of a regulated industry, would be a hotel. And with hotels, there are very specific requirements for what needs to be in each room, such as carbon monoxide monitors, first aid kits, fire extinguishers. These are all things that mandatory must be in hotels in each hotel room or at somewhere. So as an Airbnb person, it's just me, Joe Schmo, running out my house. I don't have to abide by these hotel regulations because it's only a house. And also this situation comes up with Uber as well, where I don't have to, like a taxi service, have my car meet certain standards and certain inspection levels to be able to be a taxi. It's just a normal car. It doesn't need commercial plates. Stuff like that. And another issue too is that Uber, Airbnb, and Lyft, they don't really properly vet the people that are putting out their services on their websites. When I go to work at a taxi service, the taxi service that hire me, they're probably going to do a pretty well-rounded background check to make sure that I'm not a bad person. Same thing with working at a hotel. They're going to make sure that I'm not a bad person, that I'm somebody who can be trusted to work at their hotel. Airbnb and Uber and Lyft, they don't have any risk in vetting their employees other than their users facing safety risks. So they're not going to vet as hard. And you'll find that risk assumption is a huge problem with the sharing economy when it comes to the companies that profit the most, the middlemen. I mean, if I'm in an accident as an Uber driver, Uber's not going to pay for me to get my car repaired. They're not going to compensate my gas costs. That's all on me, and that's all in the contract that I take up when I work for Lyft or Uber. It's a lot of just issues with the idea that the companies that put out these sharing economy policies, they don't have to take on a lot of the risks that come with a normal business such as a hotel or taxi service. Once we're finished looking at how the companies wiggle their way past to taking on any risk, we start to see other ways how they kind of slight the people that use their services to make money. It's a very unstable income. I mean, the percent of how much the drivers for Ubers get from each ride is that a lot of times there's studies that show that they're not making minimum wage and they're not getting paid enough for the driving that they're doing. They get paid per ride, not per hour. And that creates a lot of problems with the income they get. It's definitely not a livable wage that they're getting. And then also a lot of things like gas and services to your car. When it comes to your house at the Airbnb will cover some things, but after some stays, you see these hotels or these houses that act as hotels, they're a mess. And the people who are putting out their cars to use for Uber, the people who are putting out their houses to use for Airbnb, all the risk comes back to them. And you're not going to get any benefits as an employee working with these companies either, because the way how it works is that you're an independent contractor. The company is not responsible for giving you health benefits or a retirement package, stuff like that. That's all on you. And it's just kind of really terrible how the companies, they slight the users of the service on the risk assumption end, and then they slight them once again on the income end and the benefits end. And then we start to get to the legal and economic issues with the sharing economy. Airbnb is a prime example of just dodging laws and dodging regulations, because they're a service that pretty much looks like a hotel company, acts like a hotel company, but is not a hotel company. So they don't have to go through any of the regulations that the hotel companies do. They don't need to go through the occupancy tax laws. They don't have to go through the safety policies and follow the safety regulations that are set up. Now, in an interview with Vice News, a CEO for a electric scooter sharing company who also had experience working at Lyft and Uber, he says that companies like these like to innovate on the regulatory side. And the reporter, his rebuttal to that is, to anyone who just understood the amount of, I guess just the amount of idiocy that came out of his mouth, it was, aren't you just breaking the law? Isn't innovating regulation breaking the law? Finding new and exciting ways to break the law. And that's really what it is. And then you look at local businesses, like local taxi services in New York City and other cities. You look at independently owned hotels. They're struggling to stay afloat because of the big name hotels and big name companies from the very beginning. But then you get these sharing economy businesses coming in, and because they don't have to follow any regulation, they completely destroy these local businesses. I mean, as a owner of a hotel company, how would you feel having to follow all these strict policies that are lined out in the law, and then your neighbor rents the room out of his house without having to follow any of this? It's ridiculous. And it's pretty much just a major tax dodging scheme and a major regulatory dodging scheme. When looking at the ethics of the sharing economy, it becomes very evident that the companies are acting unethically because of how they try to wiggle their way into a regulation limbo where they don't have to follow the regulation and policies set forth for them and their competitors. So while the competitors are put down and are following the regulation because they have to, the CEOs and executives of these companies try to put themselves into different situations where they don't have to follow regulation. Going back to the whole innovating regulation idea that I talked about. And the biggest concern with that is just how much of a disadvantage it puts everyone else out. It is putting others down to put themselves up at the end of the day. To sum everything up, sharing service businesses act as these regulatory snakes that slither and slide past all sorts of regulation that hurts the businesses that compete fairly. The way how they work is that they're so decentralized that they can just dodge regulation, and it leads local governments in a scramble to try and draft legislation to fix the regulatory dodging. Companies, they don't have to be held responsible for anything that happens to their employees, because they're not really employees, they're users of the service. So an Uber driver doesn't need to get any sort of health insurance. They don't need to get any sort of transportation compensation. None of this needs to happen. Airbnb, sure, in goodwill, they might have some sort of plan if something were to happen to the house. But Airbnb, they do this just to dodge a lot of the issues that are fundamentally a part of Airbnb. Sharing services, they prey off of people who are desperate for an income, people who are struggling to pay their mortgages, so they need to rent out a room in their house short term, people who may be out of a job or in between jobs, so they have to drive for Uber to scrape up as much money as possible. These companies do not behave in a way that is fair to their employees or fair to their users or fair to their competitors. They behave in a way where they try to gobble up as much money as possible through breaking laws, taking advantage of employees, and presenting themselves as these trendy little companies. Overall, regulation is necessary to improve the sharing economy, and currently it is in a horrible state.